Hey everyone, Jordan here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the ASUS ITX for the new X870 launch. This is the X870-I gaming Wi-Fi. Now this retains a lot of features from the X670E variant that they launched previously, and of course I will run you through any differences as we go. But let's get into it. We will see the board first of all, but we'll just put that to the side and look at the additional bits we've got below. Let's go to the right hand side first. Big old bag of tricks for this one. So we've got a USB-C to C cable, that's going to be for the controller. There's two SATA cables, one of which is right angled. There's a quick release for the M.2. We've also got a USB 2 header to an additional two male connectors. We did see this on the B650 as well, just to add a little bit more capability. It's quite tricky to see, it's in bubble wrap, but this is a front panel extender, so you can extend the reach of your I/O a little bit there. We've got a Wi-Fi antennas. This will support Wi-Fi 7. This is also a magnetic connector, and we'll have the easy Q connects on the back as well. I'll show you how that works later. And last but not least, we've got an ROG keychain. So this is the little additional FBS 2 board. Connects with the USB-C ports onto the motherboard, and we've got some SATA 6 gigabit ports. There's a little switch there. Now I can't actually try that out until we get the release date, which is soon TM, but I will be using this in the build, so make sure you get subscribed and ding the bell so you don't miss when you use it in that, because I will go over it then. There's also front panel connections on there as well, and also got two USB 2 headers. So this is the Hive 2 controller. You get a little bit of a different one from the X670E variant, but it basically remains the same fundamentally. You have got the flex key button on the left hand side, a power button on the right. Nice thing to have, especially if your system's very tucked somewhere you can't reach. You can turn it on with that. Then you can do the volume control. You can also press that down to mute it. Then at the front we've got four little LEDs which will replace the QLEDs on your motherboard, so when it goes through the different post states it will light up accordingly on there. I think that's pretty nifty. Like I said, if you've got your PC that's out of the way, not really visible, you can see what's going on with it by looking at this instead. I really like that feature. On the left hand side we've got a little mic input, then also the pass-through that's going to go to the motherboard. That will also connect to USB-C on the back, which I'll show you in a minute. Then on the right hand side we've got a 10 gigabit Type-C port and a 10 gigabit Type-A. Finally onto the motherboard. Sorry for the waffle, but I did want to show you all the accessories that are included. This is a very heavy ITX motherboard, that's for sure. God, how beefy this thing looks. Holy smokes. They've done like a building in a very tight space in the city. They've gone up rather than out, because obviously ITX 170mm square, you can only do so much with it. But look how stacked that is. A little bit of a change for the design. They've gone a little bit more chrome and a little bit more silvery as well. It kind of shines and shimmers in the light. I actually do like that. It looks a lot nicer in person than it does on the website as well. It looks a little bit more kind of like digital camo on the website, but in person I think that looks really nice. Just looking at the VRM, I've also noticed a little fan inside there as well. Hopefully it won't be too loud. I've not noticed any noise when I used the B650 one, had a little fan in it, so hopefully we should be alright with this one. Pretty beefy VRM as well. Nice chunky bit of aluminium. It's using a 10+2+1 phase power design. Now let's take a look around the actual board itself. So we've got our EPS connector on the top left, using solid pins by the looks of it as well. Nothing really going along until we get about halfway. We've got some 4-pin connections. We've got a CPU fan, AIO pump, and we've also got a channel fan. These have got little covers on that you just kind of pull off to actually access. We've then got two addressable RGB connectors, so 3-pin 5V. On the right hand side we've got the 24-pin for power. There's a Type-C header that's going to be 10 gigabits per second, and we've also got a USB 3 Type-A connector at the bottom. That's going to be 5 gigabits. We've got our two USB-C connectors. This is where we're going to take our little additional board and then connect this up. That will go like that. Now the front panel connectors being on that board also means you're going to need this to power it on if you're going to use the traditional way of turning on your system. Otherwise you will need to connect the Hive, so it's a little bit of a one or the other. It would be nice if the front panel was somewhere else on the board, so you could just connect it like a normal board, but obviously with limited space they've got to do what they can, and it seems for this option they've either given you the option of the Hive or going to add in this board to control it. So going to the socket, of course, AMD AM5, so support for the 7000, 8000 and 9000 series processors. Just remember, if you're going to use an 8000 series processor, you won't have any Gen 5 storage support. It is limited to Gen 4. To the right of the socket, we have our DIMM slots. We have two slots here which will support up to 96 gigabytes of DDR5. There are some frequency limitations depending on the kind of socket you're going to use in the series. For example, 9000 series will support up to 8200 mega transfers. 8000 will support 8600, and then a 7000 series will support 8200. That's all using Expo though. Of course, if you want to do it manually, you can push it higher. So going to the bottom of the board, we have got our Gen 5 PCIe for our graphics card. That has a little sprung connector on it. Now this is their new thing that you're going to be using for these boards, or the higher end ones at least, that we're going to connect our graphics card into it like we would normally. That will latch into the connector and then be, you know, in there. The latch has connected, but in order to take it out, there's no quick release on the board. You now just pull from the left hand side, and that actually works really well. Actually, it just comes out, so you don't have to use a quick release or put a ruler down. This is their kind of newest generation of quick release, and I have to say that was actually surprisingly easy to use. Let me just connect this back in. So if I pull from the right hand side, not going anywhere, but the left comes out instantly. That's actually working really well. I'm impressed actually at that. It did look a little bit of a, well, it'll either work or it won't, but that's 2 out of 2 times that it's worked okay. And yeah, I'm pretty impressed. Good job, ASUS. For our storage options, I've taken out all the screws just to make things a little bit easier. But we first got the top heatsink, which will then reveal a 80mm Gen 4 slot. There's also a thermal pad on the back of that. Then underneath this big old beefy part, this is going to act as a heat dissipation for our Gen 5 drive. Nice bit of chunky aluminium or aluminum. There's also a thermal pad on the back of that. And then here's our Gen 5 slot. Also got a quick release on there as well, up to 80mm. Then that will bring the signal from the Gen 4 drive on the top down to this board at the bottom, and then connect into the motherboard there. Now I've done this part a couple of times, I hope it makes sense, but it's quite a technical way they do things. But of course, when you've got limited amount of space, you've got to do what you've got to do, and this seems to be the way that they've done it for this one. So Gen 5 80mm on the bottom, and then Gen 4 80mm on the top. I'm not doing anything on the back. As you can see, we have got a big old back plate. There is a peel, let's just do that. A bit of branding on there as well. So yeah, no space on the back for NVMEs. It's all on the front in this case. So looking at the I/O, we've got the red USB ports. We've got 4 of those. They're 10 gigabits per second. We've got an HDMI port. Maybe we're going to be using a CPU with built-in graphics. You can use that there. We've got a clear CMOS and BIOS flash buttons. Very handy buttons to have. You can actually update the BIOS on this board without needing a CPU installed. We've got 3 USB-C ports. The top 2 are USB 4 Type-C, 40 gigabits per second. They also support DisplayPort. We've also got one further down that's 10 gigabits per second, and that's the port you're going to connect the Hive 2 controller to. There's 3 USB 2 ports, these are the black ones. We've also got a 2.5 gig network. Then last on the board is our Wi-Fi 7 antenna points. These will just clip on like that, nice and easy to install. Of course, at the bottom we usually have some options for audio, but being that we've got the Hive 2 controller, we're going to be plugging into that for audio instead. So that was a look around the ASUS ROG Strix X870-I ITX motherboard. Let me know what you think about it in the comments box. I will add the links for this in the description box when it is available. Soon TM, not too long to go. And like I mentioned in the previous video, we'll be doing a full roundup of all these boards and my thoughts about it in the future as well. But yeah, lots going on this board. I like how they've gone up rather than an out, obviously with the limitations that there are. I do like the pearlescent look of this board. It really does look nice. And I might actually use this in the Mac Pro case build that I mentioned. I did want to do something high end. This would obviously fit the build for that. No pricing at the moment, but the previous generation is still around £400, so this is certainly going to be at a price premium. But let me know what you think about it down below. And yeah, stay tuned for my roundup as well. Get subscribed and do the basic, which the other board we're going to be doing. That's going to be the X870-I ATX. That should be probably tomorrow. So yeah, busy week for motherboards, but I hope you've been enjoying the content. Thank you for all the people that have subscribed as well. We've had a nice little uplift in subscribers as well, so I appreciate all of you guys. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all next time.